Welcome to Fasting Space. Have you lately been on a trampoline, or when was the last time? Can you even remember? Has it been a long while? Think about the last time you were on a trampoline, and then think about the feelings, okay? When I sit here, I think about it. As like normally you jump, right? And you know how far you can jump, like not really that high, right? But all of a sudden you get up on the trampoline and it's like I can jump triple high, and you feel like there's just that moment while you're up there is like you're weightless, you're floating for an instant, feel almost like superhuman. Things that come to me are just like lightness and joy and positivity and fun. I think jumping around with the kids on the trampoline. So today I want you to be thinking, okay, trampoline, and then we're going to start at a totally different place. Trigger, okay? Trigger something that is like starting like a negative emotion. It feels like as far from a trampoline as could be. That's what I say. And so we are heading from triggers to trampolines, and we're going to be doing that with the help of some thinking from this book that I totally love. The Mountain is You. Read a section of this yesterday, and I was just reflecting on how much I like this book, how much the thinking too, like all the books that I've been picking, to dive in their own way, they are all sending us to the same place, which is that, another one that I'll have to pick up. The obstacle is the way, that the things that are triggers that we're going to be looking at today, things that stand in our way, that are blocking our progress, that we see as something really either awful or at least detrimental or unhelpful or unpleasant, that so many times these things are actually the path, and that they're a gateway into unlocking some thinking and perspective that can really move us forward in life and health. Maria's here. Good morning. So nice to have you with me today. 15 hours fasting today and drinking Nespresso instead of creamy coffee. Hey, cheers to you. Love that. Love that. I hope it is enjoyable and pleasant. Everything I want for people. Fasting space. What are we doing? We are coming together, community fasting setting, so that we can lean into this practice together. I am fasting in the morning, which to me has always felt like the easiest place just to flow through. Like many people, my experience is, man, if I grab a tea or a coffee, I flow through that morning space, very productive, get a lot done, and I find a lightness in it and an energy in it. Especially when I practice, not the very first times. The first times I was like, can you really do this? Is this okay? I mean, how old was I when I first did it, in my mid-30s or something? And my whole life I'd gone through decades without knowing this was a thing. And so you say, you stack some decades on some practices, you say it can be hard to turn that around. But like you start opening your mind to it, leaning into it, as like, oh, I feel better. And I definitely had that trampoline-like feeling a couple weeks in where I'm like, I'm feeling better. Like, who doesn't want to feel better? You know what I mean? That's what I say to people. Like, we're very conditioned in our society to say, like, oh, things have to be a certain way. And once we are locked in, I was like, hey, but let's have an open mind. Like, we can find some lightness. This is the thing we're trying to do, right? We're on a weight loss path. We're saying we're trying to actually physically become lighter. Is there a process we can have, like emotionally, that is the mirror, right? That is the trampoline. You know what I was thinking last night? I was like, maybe it should be just actually getting on a trampoline. I mean, there's some good exercise, okay? All right, let's dive into it. We're going to hit the triggers. talk about how we springboard out of them like a trampoline. And we're going to hit a few. Sometimes I try to just give a short section, dive in on it. I chop this session into, maybe we do the second part tomorrow, but the second one, so big. But listen to what we're going to hit here coming up and see if any of these resonate. Have you ever struggled with any thing like this? Anger, sadness, guilt, embarrassment, jealousy, resentment, or regret, okay? These are core negative emotions, and after I got done reading this, I was feeling like, oh man, pretty much any time that we are experiencing a negative emotion, okay, we zoom in on that emotion, and then we see that as the enemy. And what I hope we can see out of this is we can reimagine what is happening out of any negative emotion, that this is actually, there is a light there. There is a positive, that our experience is showing us a way to transform something in our life. Listen to this. Now that you have begun to identify self-sabotaging behaviors, you can use them to uncover deeper and more important truths about who you are as a person and what you really want and need out of life. Like, doesn't that sound exciting? Do you want to do that? I know I want to do that. This is the big thing that I want for us, right? Diving down deep. That sort of process, you say, is it always comfortable to dive down into the deepest layers, to confront something that has been down there? And you say, we put it down there because we didn't like it, We say, I don't want to experience something like this. I don't want to think about this now. But then it doesn't go away. Like, we've talked about this a lot. Like, how do you get a trauma out? At some point, you have to confront it. Really, emotions want to be fully experienced as a process of how we release them. And that is not always pleasant, right? But do we come to the place in our life where we say, okay, there's some things that are not pleasant and there's other things that are not pleasant, and it's like we need to find ultimately a space of peace and contentment. And many times the path to do that involves confronting some kind of negative emotion or emotional experience, recognizing that, okay, mind and body, fasting space, taking away distractions emotionally, taking away distractions physically, right? So we bring into that space hunger showing us the mirror. We interrupt some patterns so the body can feel hungry. Say, we're not used to this. We haven't quite fired up the food systems here. Okay, same corollary in the emotional space. It's like, whoa, we got some space here. Like, sometimes we use food, cover over that emotional space. Then stuff like this can bubble up too. It's an important part of the process. I say here, because overcoming self-defeating habits isn't just about knowing what they are or even why we engage in them. It's about understanding what our inherent needs are, what we really desire, and how we can use this as a pivot point to begin building a life that is aligned with who we really are and what we are here to do. Doesn't that feel interesting to say, oh, like we're getting brought to a point? Think of that, any negative experience. Have you thought about it as a pivot point? I'll just tell you, that is like a little nugget to me that I'm going to really be thinking about. Like, I see the negative thing coming. This is like level 1 to me. See the negative situation coming. We're learning. It's like, oh, here's a place where I would flow through a situation, and it's like, now we're going to kind of avoid. Maybe we bounce off of it. That seems okay. But a pivot point would be like hitting it and like heading in a totally different direction. Say, triggers do not actually exist just to show us where we are storing an unresolved pain. In fact, they show us something much deeper. Each negative emotion we experience comes with a message, one that we don't yet know how to interpret. Say, ooh, that piqued my interest. On the surface, it seems that the thing that triggers our response is the problem. It is not. The problem is that we don't know what to do with how we feel, and therefore we don't have the emotional processing skills that we need. Or like, say, maybe we don't. Like maybe somebody does. I don't know. But I guess if we're in a situation where we feel like we're stuck somewhere, this book is really about helping us get unstuck out of negative cycles. And so, like, maybe we're not stuck everywhere, but if we're coming to a place where we feel stuck emotionally, and we're like, what do I do? It's like, great. You say, like, just stop doing it, you know? Okay, but here's how you dive deep into it to really actually do it. When we can identify why something is triggering us, we can use the experience as a catalyst for release and positive life change. This is what we want, right? Whether it's on a health path or any kind of personal development path, like whatever is the key issue. You know, we're sitting here, I call this a space for weight loss and wellness, okay? But I'm open to being much bigger, you know, for anybody who needs it. Like if we're sitting here and we get into a space like this, it's totally okay to open that up and you say, you know, maybe what I really need is something else, you know? Because remember, everything matters and everything flows together. And if we have unresolved issues anywhere in our life, it can all flow back into health because this is the foundation. So have an open mind. It doesn't necessarily just mean, you know, what do we take out of the fridge and what do we buy in the store? These are very important things, right? How much fasting space do we have? Maybe that really is the path, but maybe it's something else. Like, what is my relationship with this person? Okay, do you open up a space and that's what keeps coming up? Like, what is my situation with, you know, anything? They say here, this is in a section, how to interpret negative emotions. I'm going to just grab some nuggets out of these different sections to kind of show the process they're describing. See, it's not simply about getting over something. It's about listening what it is trying to tell us about our experience. And I really loved this. I think, you know, we're like hardly halfway into this book. I feel like we've squeezed so much out of it. But sometime, I don't know, when we finish this book, what is it even going to be like? I don't know. It's exciting for me to read it in real time and not know ahead of time. But one of the books I want to grab next, The Myth of Normal, I've talked about. That was one of my favorite books because it was giving me this model, which I have used both in my personal self and with patients to great effect. Disease as teacher. What is a disease trying to show us? It's like, I didn't hear anything like that in medical school, I will tell you. Disease many times is a communication from the body showing us that something is out of balance, and if we can return balance to something in the body or our life in some fashion, sometimes disease can get much better or even disappear. Like, wow. And this is in that same sort of place. Disease, most of the time we think of in the physical body, and of course, the things that I'm most dialed in with people, try to say obesity, if you see that as a disease, type 2 diabetes, these are places where fasting, you can just observe it. It's like, whoa, we are heading right into a space. We open up space with these conditions, we can see that they can disappear. This is their energy. But now this is showing us we're in this emotional space too, which is the parallel, not just trying to get over something. Listen to it. What is it trying to tell us? So what is anger trying to tell us? Do we get into a space where we're angry? It's like we can get into certainly a cycle where we say, like, do we eat, you know, and it's taking out anger, absorb it, cover over it. Anger, they say here, is a beautiful, transformative emotion. Ooh. It is mischaracterized by its shadow aggression, and therefore we try to resist it. I love stuff like this, right? Invert the way we typically think of things. It is healthy to be angry, they say. Boy, you gotta sit with that for a minute. Anger can show us important aspects of who we are and what we actually care about. For example, anger can show us where our boundaries are, right? Our boundaries getting violated, you get angry. Okay, it's showing the line here, right? That's positive. We have to have boundaries to protect ourselves. Anger helps us identify what we find unjust. Hey, that's positive, isn't it? Anger is trying to mobilize us to initiate action to make things better, right? Powerful, transformative emotion to make things better. It is often the peak state that we reach before we truly make the change that we want in our lives. Have you ever experienced that? To me, this feels, when I read something like this, how does it feel to you to read it? To me, because I have been angry about things, and then you can start judging yourself for being angry. So like, am I an angry person? And we judge, ourselves. Then there's another way we can get into a cycle. Do you see the pivot point? What it's trying to get us in this space just with anger is say, don't see anger as a problem itself. See what it is reflecting. What is it communicating? Where is a boundary that has been violated? Where is something that is unjust or negative in life that we can take this emotional space and flow through that and turn it into something good? Let's take the difficulty, transform it into something good. Anger can give us the motivation to do that. When we do not see the transformational power of anger, we tend to bury it. We never resolve the issue. And then we end up with this festering anger, which then, that's the process they see here, which can turn into aggression. Then we're shouting at someone and we don't know why, right? Then we are having a lot of things flowing out of that, right? This is why we're not trying to repress anything like that. We're not trying to cover it over. We want to be open to it, experience it. But you can't just sit there and be angry without thinking, right? Without reflecting and understanding. Like, why is the emotion here? This is what we're doing. We're stepping through these major emotions that are like triggers. The trigger that we're trying to turn into the trampoline, right? The trigger, the initial emotion, is like a reaction to something. And if we don't process it, like they were saying, they're kind of telling us, and I even kind of bristled a little bit at it. Like, is it true? Like, do we not have the emotional processing skills we need? To me, I say, how old am I? I've been here. I'm not a kid, right? Do I not? Okay, but we all need to grow and develop, right? All of us. Do you see how this different type of perspective, that it can help transform our thinking? We say, oh, look at the anger that is coming. Now look at the next one. Look at sadness is here, right? We live in a society, right? Tell us basically, don't be sad, right? That sadness is a problem in and of itself. If you're sad, something is wrong with you. If you're sad, you need a distraction. Say here, listen, sadness is the normal and correct response to the loss of something that you very much love. It is the aftermath of disappointment. It only becomes problematic when we don't allow ourselves to go through the natural phases of grief. Have you experienced that or done that? So here's another thing, just like anger, like we were saying. This is something that we can bury in because it's not pleasant, like we were saying. It's like, who wants to be sad? It's like, not me, right? Not nobody. But yet this is like the reality of so much of the world, right? This is so much of our experience. Like, we cannot go through this life without encountering loss. And so sadness is a normal part of that. Another trigger that we can realize. Sometimes like the trigger bubble up and we are feeling sad and we immediately go to our cycle. Is this part of a cycle that has developed, right? Sadness instead of identifying the pivot point, because when we fully experience that, acknowledge it and release it, we can bounce out of it like the trampoline. That's possible. This is showing us the possibility. They say crying at appropriate times, one of the biggest signs of mental strength. Isn't that a complete inversion from how society would typically judge someone who is crying? Say someone is crying, they must be weak and struggling. Got to put on a tough face. People who are struggling often find it difficult to release their feelings and be vulnerable, right? This is what is difficult to do in our society. So it actually takes a great amount of strength to be able to sit with it and to release it. How are you doing with these? What do you think of the flow, the process, identifying the triggers, bouncing out of them? We got a couple more to go. Guilt is the next one. Do you ever struggle with that? Do you ever feel guilty? Does that a trigger that can lead us into a negative cycle in anywhere in life? They say guilt tends to affect us more for what we didn't do than what we did. It requires us to look deeply at our behavior, our decisions. What we feel badly about. Things that we did or didn't do that was not in our best interest. If we have treated others unfairly, we have to be able to admit, apologize, correct these things, right? There's another thing we can bury, right? Like if we have feelings like this, we can bury them, but then they stay. And these can be triggers that are driving negative cycles. Remember, everything we're trying to do, get out of negative cycles. Open up. If we have a generalized feeling of guilt, maybe it's not about a specific thing. We need to look closely at who or what makes us feel that way, can make us feel that we are wrong. Even if we can't pinpoint it. Guilt is often an emotion that we carry from childhood and then project onto current circumstances when we felt as though we were burdens to those around us, right? So you could see how something like that could develop in childhood. Do we carry it with us? That would be the type of thing, I mean, it might not even come up to even think about. So there would be a big space, because they're pointing these out because these really are, do you feel this way? The big triggers for people, like the root levels, like if something is hanging out under there, we had some bad experience in childhood, we felt like a burden, and we've kept that around us for a long time. Is it time to let go of it? Is it time to transform that? They say here about embarrassment. It's what we feel when we know that we didn't behave in a way that we're proud of. Other people can never make us feel as embarrassed as we can make ourselves feel. This is the case. Remember, I have said so many times, I feel this way, that we're often the most ruthless and judgmental on ourselves, right? Do you feel that way? I like to say, like, if we have a friend, if a friend came to you, is dealing with something, you would be kind to them, right? Do we treat ourselves like that, like a friend? When you are truly and completely confident that you are doing the best that you can with what you have in front of you, you stop feeling embarrassed. Right? So there is a beautiful spot for us to get to. I want everybody to be at a place like that. Like this would be like a great inspiration for the day. Just to do the best that we can with what we have. That's like an FDR quote. I think I've put that on here. Do what we can with what we have, where we are, right, in this moment. Like we couldn't even do anything more than that. And if we are doing that way, if we are at least trying our best to do that, it's like nothing to be embarrassed about. Sure, others can make us feel bad with their comments or ideas, but often their worst judgments tend to be neutralized when we accept ourselves and feel proud of who we are. Anyone struggling with any kind of embarrassment, this is the pivot point, right? Because we want to find this kind of positive self-image, feeling proud of who we are and what we are doing, that we are a human being and we are giving it our best shot to do the best that we can. Like, what else can you do? You can feel very good about that. How are you doing with these? As I'm reading through these, I'm like, man, this is quite a list. It's quite a list. I take a little breather as I'm just thinking about it. I don't know what your experience is. Mine is like I can resonate with almost all of these at one point or another. You know, I don't know if it's at one point maybe we struggle with one more than the others, but I think many times, yeah, maybe we can struggle with multiple. Jealousy is a cover-up emotion. It can present as anger or judgment when in reality it is sadness and dissatisfaction with ourselves. Do you ever feel jealous? When we are using jealousy to show us what we would like to accomplish, this would be the thing. Not to make it about someone else, to turn that, look at ourselves, right? When we use it like a mirror to show us what we would like to accomplish, we begin to recognize the way self-sabotage has been coming in. We get ready to move beyond it, commit to what we actually want. When someone who has something or is doing something that we really want, we suppress our willingness to pursue it. That's the self-sabotage. Then we must condemn it in someone else. That's how jealousy manifests, right? As a negative emotion towards someone else, to cover over the fact that we are not taking care of our needs or desires, right? Isn't that fascinating to see that twist? Instead of this, we can see what we would like to create. I love that. Maybe later this week, we dive in another little bit on our creative, artistic thinking, right? That we are creators, and if we are not a painter or a sculptor or anything like that, we are at least creating our life and experience. If we are not happy with the experience we have, we don't have to be jealous of somebody else's experience. We sit here and we look at that as a mirror. We see these negative emotions and how we can pivot off of them and spring out like a trampoline, create the actual experience that we want. Listen to this comment about resentment here. We're flowing through the list. I think just two more. When we resent people, it is often because they did not live up to the expectation that we had of them in our minds. You can think of resentment like a projected regret. Very interesting. Instead of trying to show us what we should change, it seems to want to tell us what other people should change. But this isn't a path to happiness or contentment, right? We can only change ourselves. When we are faced with resentment, what we instead must do is reinvent our image of those around us or those we have perceived as having wronged us. Other people are not here to love us perfectly. They are here to teach us lessons, to show us how to love them and ourselves better. Isn't that a beautiful thought? It's like actually like teaching us how to love other people better. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Don't you want to do that? I know I want to do it. Do you find yourself resenting people? Man, I just say it. I can think of sometimes some people, right? All of these things that we're going through, think of the physiology of it. Like all these, what we are labeling as triggers, negative emotions or influences coming into our life. This is not an emotional state. If we're harboring any of these things, resentment and jealousy and sadness, guilt, embarrassment, anger, like all of these things are feeding in to an emotional space that is not content, right? Is not at peace. When our emotional center is not at peace, chronically, this is having hormonal effects on the body. Think how all this flows together. Most, problems, weight, blood sugar, metabolism of all kinds are at a fundamental layer, have hormonal imbalances at the center of them, and especially from chronic stress. Adrenaline constantly sending the message you're not safe. Body's responding, a cortisol response. Supposed to be a short-term thing, helping to protect the body, but when it is always released, puts us into this chronic inflammatory state that drives insulin resistance, which is at the core of most metabolic dysfunction. So it's so crazy to think about even like saying it, right? But dealing with things like this, getting something like that out, which we say, oh, that's an emotional space. Is that really in the body? What does that have to do with my risk of developing type 2 diabetes? Okay? But when we let go of those things, and it helps to bring peace and contentment into the body, which centers the hormonal state and stops the drive toward insulin resistance, you can see how profound it is, right? When we release ideas that we've had about other people, about who they should be, we can start to see them for who they are and for the role they're meant to play in our lives. Instead of focusing on how they should change, we can focus on what we can learn. There, like you said, like that, there's a process that might be a little uncomfortable, man. Isn't it easier to just be angry at someone sometimes? Yeah, than to turn the mirror around and look and say, what can I learn? How can I grow here? Here's the last one for today. Regret. Remember, I did the whole session letting go of regret back in the fall. Loved that. Regret is another way that we show ourselves not what we wish we could have done in the past, but what we absolutely need to create going forward. I double underline this. This was maybe my favorite part of this whole thing. Because don't we think about regret as the past? Like regrets have to be in the past, don't they? Like we have something happened in the past. Either we did something or we didn't do something or we wish something about the past. This is the pivot point. This is where we want to explode out of it, bounce out of it. Like we encounter regret, we see it. That's the trigger. Now we see it's not about the past. The reason we're feeling this way, see, like we were saying, we don't know the message that the emotion is sending. The message that they are suggesting here, do you agree, is about the future. Regret is showing us, don't make this mistake again, right? Make the future better. Learn and grow. As you see, bounce out of this place. Not that way, this way, right? Take the experience that we see as regret and use it as a stepping stone to build a future that is better than the past. That's looking toward the light. I love that. The truth is that most people regret what they did not do more than they ever regret what they did. It's not a coincidence. Regret isn't actually trying to make us feel bad that we didn't live up to our expectations. It is trying to motivate us to live up to them going forward. awesome. Like, we can start to see that as kindness, actually. Like, instead of being stuck in a negative cycle, like, of regret. See, that's what we did in that session in the fall. Like, how do you let go of regret? How do you come to peace with it? Like, here is a beautiful bonus to that. Like, seeing it actually as kindness from the body, from however this is, mind-body entity, you know, is trying to give us emotional clues that we need to learn to read so that we can make the future better and positive. They say, did you make choices that didn't reflect your best self? Regret is showing that you can make different ones right now. Isn't that inspiring? Isn't that positive? I love that. I want that to be our centering thought for the day. If you have ever had regret, or if you can identify regrets that you have right now, and the same thing is true for any of these emotional spaces, take the things that are in the past, learn from them, and see the reflection of it, that the message that sadness, for example, is sending about this is actually looking forward, about dialing us in to the things that we truly care about and helping us to really be present and cherish them. You know what I mean? So just always look to the reflection. Regret. So many things leading to regret, and then reflect that into the future. Create a brighter future. The thing that I want to help people do, on both in the physical body, in the mental emotional space, open up some space if you feel called to it. Could be a fasting space. Maybe it's 15 hours fasting, a beautiful space to be. You open up as little or as much as you feel called to do it, never forcing yourself to do it in any sort of fashion. Remember, the thing that we're after is wellness. Wellness is not forced. Wellness is a flow, and you just go with that flow. This is what we're trying to do in the actual body of energy, right? Energy is a flow. Energy flows between spaces and places in the body. We have a situation, energy flows into the body when we are eating things. If we have more than we need, the body stores it for us because it is so kind. It is trying to help us survive and thrive. If we say we're at a place, the weight is higher than we want, the body is carrying this burden for us, and we say, I want to give my body a gift. I want to help release this energy. Okay, this is what fasting space is. It's a gift to the body to say, hey, you know what? I'm all right taking this space here. Why don't you just release this energy? The body's like, oh, we can do it. And the first times might be a little difficult because the body is like, haven't practiced it in a while, you know? But like, you get in a groove, you're patient, kind, gentle. Energy start flowing out of the body. And that can lead to great health in so many ways. Can the weight come down doing that? Yes, it can. Can it reset blood sugar and insulin resistance as the primary things? Absolutely. And then I hope in this space, okay, we went through a big list today of triggers, right? Negative emotions that can be part of all of our experiences. And to me, a fasting space, like I said in that interview with Michelle, you know, you start opening up some space like that in the body, and some stuff can bubble up, you know. Stuff can bubble up physically in the body, right? And that's what that autophagy space can help to burn through. I like the concept I was thinking the other day of like a mental autophagy, you know. I was like, we talk in the physical body that fasting help burn through extra calories, burn through dysfunctional proteins, other things that we don't need. What is the emotional space, the corollary that we can bring to this that can help burn through some things like this, like the resentment, you know, and the anger? Can we fast through that? And can that mental autophagy, which I'm just making up, you know, I don't know, is that a real thing? You know, but the process really is like opening space so that we can process things. Help to release them is one way to think about. The other way to think about it, actually just integrate them, meaning coming to peace with them, not forgetting about them, but like coming to see the good and the process, or at least coming to a neutral space where it was like we're at peace with it. Bringing things to peace in our life to the greatest extent possible. This is how you take a process of any kind, certainly the process that I'm talking about, and make it sustainable. I want for people, anybody, my vision, anybody who encounters simple fasting, what I want that to be for people, I want it to be the last thing that you need, The weight loss world, it's like one thing after another. It's like buy one book and the next, try one supplement and another, try one pill and then a thing and something else. And it's like it is a treadmill. And this is, in my view, consumption culture is like that. It's always keeping us consuming across every domain, new things for the house, new car, new anything, okay? New food, new everything, okay? I think the weight loss industry is like part of that. It's hype cycles and the next thing, and money upon money for the whole thing. I want people to sit in a fasting space. If you feel open to it, realize you don't have to actually buy anything. There is nothing to consume. The power to change, the power to actually physically power the life and the process already inside of us. That's why I describe fasting, completely empowering, powerful process. I want you to feel that and experience it and know it. And if you encounter a space like that, you can accomplish any metabolic thing that you want in your body over time. It's not a lose weight quick thing. I never tell anybody, lose 20 pounds by next month, It's not a hype, okay? It's just a real, honest, sustainable process that is actually the physiology of the body. Body stores energy for us to power our body and life, and we can start tapping in and training and practicing, learning to do that. I hope that you find that to be a benefit to your life. Those were some good thoughts from that book. I love that. I don't know about you. I be thinking about that today. I'm going to be thinking about these emotional situations and where do I see them in my life. I'm going to write about it a bit in my journal and think about, okay, I'm going to try to have the radar up. That's what I would say. Do we see that coming now? Do we encounter situations in our life where we're seeing negative emotions where in some place in the past we might have seen it as like judging ourselves or having a problem? Say, I'm remembering this now. This could be a pivot. This might be a message. How do I take this and realize, okay, a need that I have, and can it help us all to flow in healthier, happier, more positive, productive ways? Have a beautiful day. So nice to share this space with you. I'll be back tomorrow sharing more thoughts with you. Really appreciate having you here. Have a great day.